Hello, everybody. Welcome to Moment of Clarity. Please take a moment to share this and let people know to join us. So, as you've seen on the mainstream media, it seems in a larger sense, the ruling class is turning against Donald Trump. Those who have facilitated his reign until now, many of them seem to be turning on him in these final days of his presidency. The mainstream media, of course, well, with some exceptions on Fox News or whatever, but in general, is horrified at what took place at the Capitol, rightfully so. They're furious with Donald Trump. They're furious with those who behaved as terrorists. 5 people are now dead, and a fair amount of this I agree with. But there are significant things that I think are not being said. Some of them I covered the other day, where I talked about and I talked about how the police presence was different at Black Lives Matter, at environmental protests, etc. Now that has become a mainstream talking point. Now you even hear it in Joe Biden's speech, although I thought it was hilarious that he had to say that the reason he knew that police presence was different at a Black Lives Matter protest versus a white supremacist militia protest like happened here at the Capitol was because his granddaughter sent him a photo. He said, my granddaughter sent me a photo of the difference. And I was like, really? Fucking president-elect doesn't know the police presence at your standard Black Lives Matter protest near the Capitol, or at an environmental pipeline protest where they'll, arrest people for merely sitting quietly in front of construction equipment. But anyway, I covered that the other day. It's now become a mainstream talking point. That's good to see. I'm glad to see them doing that. But there's other things that's not being said. Another one I covered the other day on my live stream was that the mainstream media created the void of information that allowed Donald Trump to claim he won this election. He's been able to run around saying the election was false and that he won because of our garbage mainstream media. I mean, they delegitimize themselves. And I went through some of that the other day. You can look at weapons of mass destruction as maybe one of the biggest, but you could go through all these other things. The Russia collusion story, the Russia bounty story, various hacking stories that have been proven to be false, the Syrian chemical weapons story that has been proven to be false, and multiple OPCW whistleblowers have come out and said so. You can keep going down the list of how our mainstream media has proved themselves just utter garbage, which then creates a void where reality goes. Who do people turn to for the truth? Now that they've been shown again and again that their mainstream media is garbage, they turn to people like, carnival barkers like Donald Trump. So I covered a lot of that the other day, so I'm not spending much time on it this time. This time, what I want to talk about, which is also not being talked about in your mainstream media, is what happened the other day here at our Capitol. They're calling it an insurrection, a terrorist attacks in many senses of the word, is what we try and promote, what our government tries to promote on a regular basis in other countries. Regularly. In the latest COVID bill, in the latest stimulus bill, there were billions of dollars given to certain countries or certain groups to try and facilitate in their country what happened at the Capitol the other day. And I'm pointing because it's about 5 blocks that way. We literally in a COVID stimulus relief bill, there were millions of dollars for, of course, we call it democracy promotion, right? But what is it really? It's promoting, if you actually look in the details of where the money goes, is to promote riots or coups or coup attempts, to facilitate the training and sometimes the arming of various groups, sometimes neo-Nazi groups, as we saw in Ukraine. And there was money in this relief bill for rioters in Hong Kong. There was money for similar things in Venezuela and Syria. And so we basically have become the victim. Well, the U.S. Obviously doesn't represent all of us, but the U.S. government in our Capitol building has become the victim of something that we promote regularly in other countries, and it is horrible. I'm not saying that like it's a good thing. I'm not saying that like, oh, look, great. I love when, terrorists attempt to kill lawmakers. And I think if they had gotten their hands on some of the lawmakers, they probably would have killed them or greatly harmed them. And so I'm not saying it's a good thing. I'm saying we should be horrified at all this shit we create overseas. When we try and create these riotous, angry mobs in other countries like Venezuela, we have blood on our hands for that too. We should be equally furious for that, except the difference is that literally our government is paying for it. Our government is sending money to create those things. Many people have died in Venezuela from not just from our economic sanctions, our economic war on them. That's killed tens of thousands. But even just with the violent extremists that have been furthered and propped up in Venezuela, they've set people on fire just for being black in Venezuela. They've killed people. They set up when they shut down a road, they'll set up like a wire across the road, so people on motorcycles will basically get killed or decapitated or greatly injured. This is the type of thing that goes on, and these are the type of groups that we further with our democracy promotion. That's our promotion of democracy. You wouldn't think so, right? When you're watching someone being set on fire, you don't normally think, wow, that's some wonderful democracy promotion they're practicing there. I'm impressed with their ability to promote said democracy. No, but that's how fucking pathetic and awful and cynical we are to put money in these bills, in a stimulus bill, for this type of shit. Not to mention, of course, I've covered this before, all the garbage money that was in that stimulus bill, including billions, literally billions, for Israel's defense forces. Again, there's another euphemism, right? Defense forces, Israel to bomb and attack Palestinians, usually throwing rocks, because you really do need a surface-to-air missile to deal with a rock. And so but mainly I'm focusing on the fact that we tried to do this same thing in Venezuela. In fact, in order for this to be, if this had gone down exactly like Venezuela, what would have happened is most of you probably saw the photos of the people in the Senate chambers. The guy with the fucking crazy horns got up in like the Speaker of the Senate seat where Mike Pence was there moments earlier overseeing the Senate proceedings. So he was up there, shirtless dude with fucking bison horns on. It would be like, if what happened in Venezuela, what we did in Venezuela had happened here, it would be like if the Venezuelan government in that moment, when the shirtless bison guy's up there, if the Venezuelan government had said, we declare Bison Man president of the United States. Let me see if I can look up a photo of Bison Man. For those of you who haven't seen this guy. Let's see. All right, this is the guy. This is the guy who took over the Senate chambers the other day. And let's see. There you go. There he is. There's also some photos of bison there because I put in bison horns. But anyway, that guy took over the Senate chambers, and it would be like if what we did to Venezuela would be like if when that guy took over the Senate, Venezuela announced he was president of the United States, and he announced himself president of the United States, and Venezuela said, I agree. And then if Venezuela had the power that the United States had, they then ran around and forced other countries to acknowledge Bison Man as the president of the United States. And then you'd end up with, so ultimately we got 50 countries to agree that Juan Guaido, who had never received a single vote for president in Venezuela, was the president of Venezuela. We pressured 50 countries into doing it. And now it's down to like 19 or 12 or something are left that still acknowledge Juan Guaido as the president of Venezuela, despite never running or being elected president. And so it would be like if Venezuela successfully got 50 countries to acknowledge that this QAnon idiot was president of the United States, and then we started funneling. Then Venezuela started funneling millions of dollars to Bison Lunatic to be president of the United States, which is what we did with Juan Guaido. We literally just funneled money to him and his fucking goons in order to try and create a failed state, a coup in Venezuela, in order to take their resources, take their money, take over their society, exploit as much as we could. And we then did other things as well. That's just one of the steps. We also were likely involved, our CIA was likely involved in the drone bomb assassination attempt against Maduro. A small drone, we're talking about this size, flew in while he was giving a speech and exploded feet from him. And his security guards, tackled him to protect him. So it didn't kill him, but it was an attempt to kill him. And it seemed likely that the people who planned that had at least CIA, some CIA help. But so what happened that our media is rightfully freaking out about, the attack on the Capitol just 2 days ago, 5 people dead, including a police officer. And the woman who was killed was an Air Force veteran, I believe. The woman who was shot. Then there were 3 others who died of medical reasons, but I don't know what the fuck that means. One, I did read one fell from a scaffolding because that makes sense. A lot of people were climbing very high that are probably not climbers. But so as the media and as our politicians rightfully freak out about what happened to the Capitol, remember that we try and create that in other countries all the time. And now maybe we know how that feels. It feels fucking awful. And it feels like you don't know whether your government or your society could collapse at any moment because idiots with guns are taking things over. And we try and do that to other countries on a regular basis. And some of the time we succeed. And many times, even if we don't succeed, like in Syria, we succeed in creating a fucking awful, horrible situation in that country or in a country where tens of thousands of people die because we're keeping money from them, we're keeping oil from them, we're keeping medications from them. And that's what we're doing in Syria, along with funding Al-Qaeda affiliates and training them and shit like that. But it's fucking incredibly harmful and destructive. And while our media will celebrate all of that, Nancy Pelosi and Donald Trump together gave a standing ovation to Juan Guaido in the Senate chambers for the State of the Union this year. So while we celebrate this shit in other countries, we're horrified when it happens here, rightfully. We should be horrified when it happens here. We should be horrified when it happens in other countries, and we should stop fucking doing it. We should stop being a part of it. We should stop harming so many people around the world, having so much fucking blood on our hands. So that's step one. That is not discussed in your mainstream media. That will not be discussed in your mainstream media. It cannot be discussed in your mainstream media. And in fact, they will say the opposite. I also wanted to move on to similarly how they're the freak out right now about Donald Trump not being fit for office. Obviously, he's only got less than 2 weeks left in office. So right now they're having the discussion. He's not fit for office. He's unhinged. We need to make sure that the nuclear codes are not in his hands. I agree with all that, but I agreed with all of that from day one. And I agree with that for Obama and for Bush and for Clinton and for all these mass murderers. And so the question is, what changed in the past 2 days that made Trump more unhinged and less fit for office? Nothing really. Yeah, he sent an angry mob to the Capitol, but he this is a guy who happily put children in cages, happily has been bombing and obliterating children and people, innocent people around the world for all of his 4 years, just as Obama did. And so that's the difference. The difference is that the violence that Donald Trump either allows or creates, he sent it at the rest of the ruling establishment. When it's not at the ruling establishment, when it is bombing other countries to the tune of 40,000 bombs dropped a year. Now, that's obviously with cooperation of his military. This is the Pentagon with his kind of approval. Yeah, do what you want. Drop all the bombs you want. Have fun. 40,000 bombs a year. That should also show that he's unhinged and not fit for office and shouldn't be there and shouldn't have the nuclear codes. All of those things should have been true from day one. And yet, our corporate media and our ruling establishment act like it just happened. Just now, he's unfit for office. And even if you want to say, well, they did impeach him earlier, it's like, yeah, but look at the things that they went after him for. They went after him for the completely just fallen flat on its face, completely horseshit scandal of Russiagate, which even if you look at the people that were indicted and you go, well, look at all these indictments. If you're saying it was fake, look at all these indictments. Look at what they were indicted for. They weren't indicted for colluding with Russia. They were indicted for being fucking con men, which, yeah, they're all con men. And the other indictments against the clickbait farm in Russia, they dropped all those indictments. They quietly dropped them during a pandemic while they were hoping no one was paying attention, because they can't prove that a clickbait farm in St. Petersburg swung the election. I don't know if they can even prove that clickbait farm wanted one side or the other to win the election. So the indictments are not for colluding with Russia. Anyway, could spend an hour on that. But so they go after him for that completely false story. They go after him for the call with Ukraine, which, yes, it was corrupt. He was trying to get a quid pro quo, absolutely. But guess what? Our government does that shit all the time. We have all kinds of agreements with other countries. Hey, you do this, we do that. Hey, you give us oil, Saudi Arabia, we send you weapons. We help you create a genocide in Yemen. You just back us up. You be our partner. You send us oil when we need it. We get a lot out of that deal with Saudi Arabia while we help them create a genocide in Yemen. So these quid pro quos go on all the time. Obviously, Israel's one of the biggest ones. But so they tried to get him on that, and they failed because it's standard presidential corruption. But they didn't go after him for the actual crimes, right? The actual genocide in Yemen being one of them, but the actual war crimes, the actual bombings, the actual extraction of resources from other countries that we destroy on a regular basis. Because they're a part of all that, right? They agree with it. They're down with it. They're DTF, down to fuck up the world. DTF the world. So all of that is fine. But then when he turns the violence, when the unhinged, megalomaniacal, narcissistic fucking man-child turns the violence towards the other ruling elite, now it's too far. Now you're unhinged. Now you're past the line. He passed the line. He stepped over the line. That's what they keep saying. Trump stepped over the line. Yeah, the line was on day one. He stepped over the line on day one, as did Obama, as did Bush, as did Clinton. Bombing children is over the line. You're done. Endless wars, endless economic wars that are destroying lives, putting fucking children in cages, which did happen under Obama's reign. And Obama still, by the way, although Trump, if he'd gotten another 4 years, would have broken Obama's record, Obama still deported more people and children, but people than anyone in presidential history. So Obama still has the deportation record. So I agree with all these fucking media reports. Trump shouldn't have the nuclear codes. Trump shouldn't be in charge. Trump's unhinged. Trump shouldn't have the power he has. What are we going to do about it? I agree. However, I think that's true from day one, and I think it was true of Obama, and I think it was true of Bush. These people should not be in charge. They're sociopaths, and we need someone to be a leader who is not a fucking megalomaniacal, psychopathic maniac. And in our system, that can't happen. But I just find it so laughable that all these people freaking out, CNN, MSNBC, even most of Fox News, and then you have another garbage, a slightly smaller garbage group on Fox News like Tucker Carlson that are like, fucking insurrection and terrorist attacks on the Capitol is just totes cool. Not only is it totes cool, but it was faked by Antifa. Yeah, the guy with covered in white supremacist tattoos and a bison helmet that was standing at the front of the Senate. He's Antifa. That is a devoted infiltrator to get all those white supremacist tattoos, and then I did it just to be accepted. I got all this white supremacist shit on my body permanently just to be accepted by the other white supremacists. And I do think there should be there is a difference between the militias and the truly violent groups that planned this stuff and led the charge into the Capitol building. There is a difference between them and standard Trump supporters, which a lot of this country is, that even the ones that came to D.C., I passed a lot of them on the sidewalk. And as I said the other day, a lot of them are not militia. I'm not saying they're not racist. There's probably some definite racism in there, but they're not violent people. A lot of them are kind of not very informed on this stuff, and they have been exploited across their lives, and they're having trouble surviving in this country, and they think Donald Trump speaks for them because you have a mainstream media that has completely delegitimized itself. Mainstream media has proven again and again that they will not tell people the truth. And therefore, you now get to this point where a lot of people go, well, I guess that means Trump's telling the truth. Well, no. They're not mutually exclusive. It could be both. It could be both corporate media that is doing anything to facilitate profit over human lives is lying to you. And Donald Trump, his whole life, millionaire and billionaire, fucking never met an average person, at least not in the last 5 decades. Complete man-child, narcissistic, pathetic human being. He's lying to you too. Both can be true. You see how that works? Doesn't have to be one or the other. Doesn't have to be either CNN or Donald Trump. But anyway, so the mainstream media created a void for where the truth should be. And by doing that, they created this moment where a maniac, a wannabe dictator like Trump could tell people, oh, no, I just won the election and every state is lying to you. Even the Republicans in all of those states are lying to you. And people would believe him. Yet you will not see any culpability mentioned on your mainstream media. Of course, none of this is their fault. It is squarely just Trump's fault and Ted Cruz's fault and whoever the other goons are. It's only their fault. Well, no, there's plenty of fault for you too, you fucking corporate ass clowns. So this is how we end up here, and this viewpoint, I'd say, is not the common viewpoint online. People think that either you've just got to be fully for mainstream media, you got to be fully for Donald Trump, and I think that is bullshit. I think there is a third way that is very important. That is actual reality and seeing actual reality and talking about it and fucking standing up for what's right and not agreeing to support fucking war criminals. Like, not. I mean, we're people look at us like we're fucking crazy if we say, hey, if you're going to bomb children on a regular basis and pose no risk to you, then I don't support you. I don't care what else you stand for. I don't care what else you do. If you're going to allow people to die across this country in the tens of thousands because we won't give them health care or we won't give them food or we're going to bulldoze tiny homes and tent cities for the homeless, then I don't care what else you stand for. I don't care if you did something positive the other day. It doesn't matter to me. You've already crossed the line, right? They keep using that term, that phrase, cross the line. You've already crossed the line. I don't care what else you did. And they look at us like we're crazy if we have that viewpoint. But oh well, I'm going to remain in that group. I'm not changing that stance. So, I mean, yeah. And to go back to what I was talking about in the first half, we need to look at what we do in other countries, what we do to them. And literally, we're funding it right now. Right now, those members of Congress who were ducking under their desks, perhaps fearing for their lives, worried that their Capitol building was being stormed, we try and create that situation in other countries on a regular basis. Iran, Ukraine, Venezuela. We'd love to do it in Russia, although I think we failed there for now. Hong Kong. And of course, if you go back in the past, just about every country in Latin America, right? We've done it in Haiti, Guatemala, Honduras, Nicaragua. Nicaragua recently, just a year ago, we tried to do it. I mean, we do it so regularly in other countries. And we should look at what just happened here and how awful it is to see fucking white supremacist militias run around trying to kill lawmakers. And we should rethink what it is we're funding overseas in other countries. But you won't hear that talking point, will you, on mainstream media? No, can't mention that. Can't talk about how we treat the rest of the world. All right, guys, that has been your moment of clarity. Please share it. Please let people know about this. I do these almost every single weekday, except sometimes. And they're at leecamp.com. You might be seeing this on a different channel or on Facebook. Please come over and subscribe at youtube.com/momentofclarity. That's my personal channel, youtube.com/momentofclarity. There is a new interview that just aired. It's at youtube.com/redacted tonight, my TV show. On the Redacted Night YouTube channel, you can go watch it right now. The interview is with Professor Mark Skidmore, the economist who actually first discovered the $21 trillion of unaccounted for adjustments in the Pentagon's publicly viewable books, finances. $21 trillion, an unimaginable amount of money. And I've covered it a lot, but this is the first interview I've done with economics professor Mark Skidmore. And you got to see it. It's over there, youtube.com/redacted tonight. Also, tonight, there will be a new episode of Redacted Tonight. I hope you'll check that out. That should be on YouTube around 8 p.m. Actually, I think it might even come up earlier, like 6 p.m. And if you want the full episode, then get it at portable.tv. Portable.tv. You can watch the full uncensored episode. All right, guys. Thanks. Hope you enjoyed it. If you want to learn more about the 21 trillion, you can also grab my book. So leecampbook.com. Keep fighting.